gone to court a lot.
So certainly, these are issues that matters, obviously. Yes.
Yes, I've listened to the lawyers, so I think I have a fair sense of what's going on. Now, if it is the case that the law requires that it is the Judicial Council that makes the recommendation, then for me that is the starting point, really. That clearly would show that our Chief Justice has actually basically sidestepped the law, if you like, has not done the right thing as far as the law is concerned. Now, sometimes I like quoting aspects of the Bible in some of these matters. The Bible will tell you that God is supreme. He's created everything, and He's created the law for the universe, His word. But He Himself is ruled by His law. God is not above His own laws. No.
It's divine laws.
Yes. So the Chief Justice, in terms of the authority to interpret our laws, of course, sits at the apex with her court now. But even that Supreme Court is still under the law. Okay. I mean, from a layman's point of view, I'm sure the lawyers can correct me.
Yeah, that's correct.
Yeah. So really, if that is the case, then it means that in terms of the Constitution and proper law, then the Chief Justice has not acted properly. You know, and I'm happy Lawyer Kwebu referred to a lot of the comments some of the justices, and especially one of the former Chief Justices, Atukuba, has made to the lack of confidence that citizens may have in such critical and sensitive institutions of state as the Supreme Court. Now, a lot of these sentiments of lack of confidence are quite properly grounded in our sense. If I say our, I mean those of us who are laymen, our sense of the integrity of these institutions and the way they present themselves. Now, if in the Constitution of the Supreme Court itself there are doubts, there are issues of credibility, there are issues of non-legality and unconstitutionality, then we are heading into serious problems. I believe that even outside of the law and the Constitution, it is also coming out clear that just the ethical factors around the whole thing doesn't make it look good. If you have what people see as a very highly political case, in the example of Honorable Atuforsen and the ambulance matter being on the front burner of public discussion, and the judge at the center of it, who, as far as the NDC and some political opponents see as being used, the court is being used to persecute a political opponent. And now this judge happens to be one of the nominees. That one alone is enough to spoil the whole discussion and to send a signal that no, this could be up to some political gimmicks, which may not necessarily be the case. It may not be the case. But now that there is a whole lot of confusion and lack of trust and lack of confidence as far as the politics of that case is concerned, if you name this particular judge as part of it, it makes it even more problematic. So I would say that aside of the law, I think we should try and avoid the appearance of undue political influence. And I'm choosing my words very carefully. The appearance of. Because you see, as for us laymen, it might not be that there is political influence. But as soon as there is something that gives us that impression,
Appears to you.
it appeared to me that there is political influence, undue. I am not saying that you can totally avoid political influence. In any case, if constitutionally the president has the authority to appoint, already it's a political process. It is something, even though it's constitutional, the president is vested with the political power of the state, the whole state. So there is politics out there. But where it begins to appear that the influence of a certain political bias is unduly being brought to bear on this process, we will forget about the substance. We will put aside the real issues and just focus on the peripherals. You know, but in any case, even in this case, there is a major case to be made for the substance in terms of law. So that is bad enough. Now, secondly, you are looking at a situation where people feel that there is some political underhand dealing. It just doesn't go to help the credibility issue of the institutions of state who require, by necessity, they require to have that credibility. People need to have confidence in, say, the police. People need to have confidence in the courts. People need to have confidence in the Supreme Court of Ghana. So if there is anything that is done to take away from that credibility and create confidence issues, I think it's a very major problem for our democracy and the institutions of democracy. Now, as for the excuse that the workload of the Supreme Court is so heavy that they need more judges,
I don't think that's an excuse. I think it's
no. Why? Listen to me. Why I say it's an excuse? Because there are ways of going about it. My suggestion, I'm not a lawyer, but I spoke to a lawyer and he tried to explain to me before I got into the studio about this. That's why I call it excuse.
Okay.
Now, if we think just a little clearly about this matter, why should all land cases end up at the Supreme Court? Why should all business cases end up at the Supreme Court? Why should all chieftaincy cases end up at the Supreme Court? Why should all matrimonial cases end up at the Supreme Court? So simply put, I am saying, this is my layman. When I had the chat with the lawyer, I told him, I said, look, so why don't you create specialized courts who have finite authority over certain particular sectors of the law, so that, say, constitutional matters and others of a certain nature and magnitude will then be ceded to the Supreme Court. Okay. Now, every single land case has the potential to travel to the Supreme Court. Every marital case has the potential to travel to the Supreme Court. Every chieftaincy case has the potential to travel to the Supreme Court. But you want to let this court possess that weight, that authority, where it deals with cases that no other persons or no other courts would appear not to have the capacity to deal with. You know, I don't know how the technical people will look at this, but I think it is quite practical. When I tried to find out a little bit about the U.S. Supreme Court, it doesn't appear to me that almost every case will end up at the U.S. Supreme Court.
Yeah. They have a sieving process.
A process.
Yeah. So
I am saying that sieving,
yes, they sieve it.
Yes.
To determine whether or not
it should go there.
Yeah.
So it's in there, it's received there, but there are a number of clerks. There are specialist lawyers.
So let us find a way. Let us find a way of making sure that, look, if a land case of a certain nature can be handled and concluded, and it doesn't even go beyond the appeals court, why don't we find a way of doing some of those things? Okay. This might be technical issues. This might be very highly constitutional issues. You might need some constitutional reforms to be able to restructure the whole thing. But clearly to say that because we have just too many cases, and every case is ending up at the Supreme Court, and so therefore we need to pack the Supreme Court, if you like, I don't think it's productive in that sense. It doesn't make our judicial system, as far as a layman like myself is concerned, it doesn't make our judicial system so efficient and so effective. I think we should take some critical look at the way our whole judicial structure works.
Nana.